Marvel spent 4 years building the most dangerous villain in the history of the franchise. Multiverses collapsing, gods outmatched, a threat bigger than Thanos. Then, in one afternoon in a New York courtroom, all of it disappeared. This is the story of Kang the Conqueror, the villain Marvel was building toward, the actor who destroyed it, and the saga we were never allowed to see finished. Marvel Studios does not build villains by accident. Every major threat in the Marvel Cinematic Universe is planted years before it fully arrives. Thanos was teased at the end of the very first Avengers film in 2012, then given small, quiet appearances across nearly a decade before Infinity War let him loose. It is a slow burn by design, because the longer an audience waits, the bigger the payoff feels when the villain finally acts. Kang the Conqueror was supposed to follow the exact same blueprint, but his story ended differently, and here's what happened. Kang's version of Thanos was arguably more ambitious. Thanos wanted to erase half of all life in the universe. Kang wanted something stranger, and in some ways more terrifying, control over time itself. In the comics, Kang is not one villain, he is thousands. Every time he interferes with the timeline, a new version of him splits off, each with a different philosophy, different resources, and a different plan for domination. Some versions try to conquer through war. Others try to conquer through manipulation. One version, centuries in the making, becomes convinced he alone should rule every reality that exists. That character is called He Who Remains, and it's where Marvel chose to start. He Who Remains was introduced in the finale of Loki, a Disney Plus series released in 2021 that dealt with a secret agency called the Time Variance Authority, the TVA, whose job was to prune away any timeline that branched off from a single sanctioned path. For the whole season, the TVA is presented as a mysterious, almost bureaucratic force. Only in the finale do we learn the TVA was never neutral. It was built, quietly and deliberately, by one variant of Kang to protect his own rule, by preventing any other Kang variant from rising to challenge him. He didn't need an army. He rewrote the rules of reality so that a war never had the chance to start. That's the kind of villain Kang was designed to be, not a brute, but an architect. Someone whose victories happened before you even knew you were in a fight. The next major piece arrived in 2023 in Ant-Man and the Wasp, Quantumania. This time, Marvel introduced a rawer, more violent version of the character simply called Kang the Conqueror, trapped in an isolated pocket of reality known as the Quantum Realm. Unlike He Who Remains, this Kang wasn't interested in quiet control. He was ruthless enough that other versions of himself feared him and locked him away, refusing to make a move against the wider multiverse until they were certain he was dead. That single detail, an army of alternate selves too afraid to challenge one variant, was meant to signal just how dangerous the full version of this villain could become. And that was the plan. A slow reveal across years of films and shows, building toward a movie originally titled Avengers: The Kang Dynasty, where the full scale of the character, thousands of variants, each with their own agenda, would finally converge on the Avengers at once. It was meant to mirror Infinity War, where every hero split into teams to fight one overwhelming threat. Only this time, the threat wouldn't be one being with a glove. It would be an entire dynasty, attacking from multiple points in time simultaneously, forcing the heroes to fight a war they couldn't fully see the shape of until it was nearly over. That story never got made. In December 2023, Jonathan Majors, the actor playing every version of Kang, was convicted in a New York court of assault and harassment against his former girlfriend, following a highly publicized trial. Marvel terminated its relationship with him within hours of the verdict. This wasn't a case of an actor asking for more money, or a scheduling conflict, or creative differences, the kind of disputes that have led to past MCU recastings, like Terrence Howard being replaced by Don Cheadle. This was a criminal conviction, and it left Marvel with a saga built entirely around a character it could no longer put back on screen with that actor. For a few months, there was public discussion about recasting the role and continuing the story as planned. Marvel didn't take that path. At San Diego Comic-Con in July 2024, the studio announced something bigger. The Kang Dynasty was being scrapped entirely and replaced with a new film, Avengers: Doomsday, with a returning Robert Downey Jr. stepping into the role of an entirely different villain, Doctor Doom. Marvel Studios president Kevin Feige later said the shift away from Kang had actually begun before the legal case broke, explaining that the character wasn't landing with audiences the way Thanos had, and that the studio had finally gained the rights, through its Fox acquisition, to build toward Doom instead. Avengers: Doomsday is now scheduled for December 18th, 2026, with a sequel, Avengers: Secret Wars, following in December 2027. So the version of Kang built for the big screen was gone. But the character didn't vanish completely. In 2026, Kang resurfaced in an unexpected place, the animated series X-Men '97. Its second season introduced a version of the character called Rama Tut, a Kang variant ruling ancient Egypt as a pharaoh, voiced by actor John Delancey. It was the first time any actor had played a version of Kang since Major's firing, and it confirmed something the theory community had been circling for a while: that this particular variant, the manipulative strategist, rather than the brute conqueror, still had a place in Marvel's plans, just far removed from the abandoned Avengers storyline. It's a small return, not a resurrection, but it raises the same question fans have been asking since 2023. What would the finished version of this story have looked like if it had been allowed to play out? Here's where the story shifts from what happened to what almost did. If the Kang Dynasty had gone forward as planned, the film likely wouldn't have used the same tactic Marvel used with Thanos: one overwhelming villain the heroes face head-on. Kang's entire identity is built on manipulating time, so a direct confrontation would have undercut the character. The more interesting version of this story would have split the Avengers into smaller teams, each sent to a different point in history to counter a different Kang variant at the same moment, echoing the multi-front war of Infinity War, but fought across timelines instead of locations. Only after weakening the variants individually would the heroes have had any real chance against the version controlling them all. That structure would have also finally answered questions the MCU planted years earlier, and never resolved questions like why an entire generation of mutant heroes never appeared during the earlier phases of the franchise. Something Marvel has attributed publicly to licensing restrictions tied to 20th Century Fox, but which fan theories have long tied to interference from time-manipulating Kang variants, working to prevent certain heroes from ever being born. And it would have given Jonathan Majors' performance, which critics largely praised even when the surrounding film struggled the ending it was building toward. Instead, that ending was quietly shelved, and the character was replaced before the story reached its climax. What's left is a strange kind of unfinished business. Doctor Doom is now positioned as the MCU's next Thanos-level threat, and by most accounts, Robert Downey Jr.'s casting has generated more excitement than Kang ever did. But the abandoned Kang Dynasty remains one of the clearest examples in blockbuster filmmaking of a story that collapsed, not because the writing failed, but because reality intervened. Marvel is moving forward. Doctor Doom is the future. But somewhere in the multiverse the MCU built and never finished exploring, there's a version of this story where Kang got the ending he was designed for. We'll never see it. But it's worth asking what it would have looked like. Marvel's moved on to Doctor Doom, but Kang's story still feels unfinished to a lot of fans, and that's exactly why it's worth talking about. Be honest in the comments. Would you have rather seen the Kang Dynasty play out? Or are you fully on board with Doom taking his place? Let me know where you stand. And if you want more deep dives like this one, subscribe for daily MCU videos. I'll see you in the next one.